And when I meet Thomas Jefferson, I'ma compel him to include women in the sequel. Work! Look around at how lucky we are to be alive right now. Look around at how lucky we are to be alive right now. History is happening in Manhattan, and we just happen to be in the greatest city in the world. In the greatest city in the world.
Renee, this is one of the biggest crowds I've ever seen.
You're just saying that. You guys are
AOL.
not, like, you're not seat fillers. You're really here to see me. It's always your biggest fear. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it.
Renee Elise Goldsberry, congratulations on your Tony nomination, on Hamilton, and on being just an amazing human being.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
This is your first Tony nomination, but you are a theatrical veteran. This is your 5th Broadway show.
That's it. Wow.
Let me see if I can name them all.
Okay.
Lion King. These are out of order, I think.
No, that's in order.
Lion King, Rent, Good People. Color Purple, of course. She was in the original cast of The Color Purple. And, of course, Hamilton now.
And of course, Hamilton, yes. It's that's crazy when you think about it. That's crazy, but also really beautiful. And you just mentioned 5. We talk a lot about Hamilton, but every one of those shows was a dream come true for me. So it's really exciting.
I mean, I want to talk about all of them, and I could talk to you about all of them. I don't know how much we're going to get to, but what I'm struck by right now is that we're in the Soho area of Manhattan right now, and we happen to be right across the street from the Public Theater.
Yes, and that's good that you said that, because I always feel when we just talk about Broadway shows that we're missing really important things that didn't happen to be on Broadway. But there's work going on at the Public Theater right now that is so special, and one of the most pivotal moments in my career happened in the park at the Delacorte Theater. Does anybody go to Shakespeare in the Park? I feel I owe a huge debt to Oscar Eustis and the Public Theater and Kathleen Marshall for casting me to play Sylvia in Two Gents, John Guare and Galt McDermott's show, Two Gentlemen Verona. It's the rock version of Two Gentlemen of Verona, and playing that role really put me on the map. I was really fortunate to get some really wonderful reviews and just get the attention of the theater community in the way that allows me to be in the room where it happens. Forgive me for that. But it allowed me to move from being somebody that could be in a Broadway show to someone that could actually originate a role in a Broadway show, which is such a dream.
Well, Shakespeare, I feel like, actually has a lot in common with the kind of language that Lin-Manuel Miranda is using now, taking the way that people speak and elevating it in a verse kind of way. And when I hear you rap on a song like Satisfied, I can hear a Shakespearean cadence in your voice.
So awesome.
I feel like your training and your experience comes out in that way.
So I heard Oscar Eustis compare Lin-Manuel Miranda to Shakespeare, which I felt bad for Lin when he was doing that, because that would be, for somebody so young to have to live up to that. But I 100% agree with him in terms of what he's doing, and I think also the scope of what he will be able to do with his voice. I think it's actually a really apt comparison. And I definitely think that Shakespearean actors and hip-hop artists have a lot in common, and I'm glad that the world is getting to see that by the success of this play.
In addition to the other performance I want to just talk about for a second, which was not on Broadway, but I think should have been, and it's my dream that you will bring it back, is getting my act together and taking it on the road.
Yes,
which you did at
off-center. Yes, oh my gosh. Also Kathleen Marshall.
And this song, what is it, Good Friend?
Oh, Old
Friend.
Old Friend.
Is one of my favorite numbers you've ever performed.
Oh,
so
thank you so much.
please put it on an album or
I
something.
will. That's so nice of you to say. Yeah, I had the privilege of being a part of the first season of Off Center, which is when they bring off-Broadway shows that were gems back to life, and we did that, and I played the role of this woman who was just performing an album. And so it was kind of felt like the closest I've done really to having a one-woman show, which has always been a bit of a fear, but also something that I'm kind of looking into as something that one should do in their life. I don't know why I just said that right now. But yeah, so that was kind of the closest I've ever come, and it was another really scary experience because you have a week to put up a show, and it's really supposed to be a reading. It's supposed to be a stage reading, but we didn't hold scripts. So I think when people come see the show, they assume that it's like a Broadway show because the theater is gorgeous, and they assume that they're going to see a Broadway show, but really you're dealing with people that have been putting a show together for 1 week. So it was really, it felt like being shot out of a cannon. It was really scary, but I'm glad that you thought it was successful because it was really fun to do.
Definitely. I'm actually kind of obsessed with the intersection between fear and the adrenaline it takes to put on a show. And you know, years and years ago, I was a performer and stopped because I
You're
couldn't
performing
handle.
right now.
Oh well, I'm trying, but I couldn't handle the stress. So I'm always curious how a performer, whether someone like you experiences stage fright, how you channel that into a performance, use it to elevate as opposed to completely freeze you in your tracks.
So I live my life, especially when I'm in a show, but even when I'm not in a show, because you know we are always hustling, we're auditioning for shows. I mean, even in this moment in my life, which is definitely the most successful I've ever been in my life, somebody's waiting for me to put myself on tape for audition for another show.
Which show?
I can't tell you.
Tell us.
But so I'm saying, so there's always. They laugh.
They want to know.
Well, we'll see. I'm not superstitious at all, but you know, we don't want to talk about things that are not. You know, let me tell you, this is something that's important to say, and then let's put a pin in what you just said because it's important. We spend a lot of time talking about people's successes. Like, you've been in 5 Broadway shows, Renee, but we don't talk about all the shows that I've auditioned for that I did not get in. Do you know what I mean?
I'm going to ask you
There's
again.
too many to even remember.
Tell us, like,
But
what's
it's
a role
important
you
for people
auditioned
to
for?
know, jobs that I've lost to other really wonderful actors, and that happens all the time. It happens all the time, and then every once in a while, your job is there, and you can't mess it up. You know, like you can't. Like it's not like I was so brilliant in this audition and I wasn't brilliant in that audition. Sometimes something's just your job, and sometimes it's not, and you just never know what that's going to be, so you just show up afraid. I mean, that's the deal. So to go back to adrenaline and fear, I live with it every single day. Even now, Lin-Manuel Miranda, just in case you didn't know who I was talking about.
I think we've heard of them.
Just in case you didn't see the Rolling Stone cover. He used to say all the time, because he's like such a cheerleader, like in our prayer before the show, he'd be like, come on, we got to make it every night, you guys, right before we walk out there. Because what happens is this is not a piece of art on the wall, you know? It's not like we did something, it's a movie, and we can all sit around and talk about how brilliant it is. Like, you know, in a couple of hours, I have to pull it off again for a bunch of people who are expecting even more than the first audiences were expecting. And that's stressful sometimes. And I think subconsciously I'm more aware of that than I am consciously sometimes. As the day goes along, I'm having this great day right with you, and then I'll go to a rehearsal for the Tonys after this, and then I'll go to dinner and have something, you know. But like as the day goes along, I find myself getting more tired. And I think it's just my body responding to the stress of the fact that, you know, there's going to be a half-hour call, and then I'm going to, you know, put my dress on and my makeup, and there's going to be a screaming crowd, and I mean, I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to pull it off. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to run out there and see how it goes. I definitely have enough experience with the show. Do you know what I mean? And I only have really great memories of it working, but it still scares me. To quote Lynn, it's like we have to bake it every night. It's like a restaurant. And so I'm always, there's a little cut above the stairs if you've seen the show, there's a high banister, and right behind it I come out a lot, and I'm always behind that little thing, you know, saying a prayer. You know what I mean? Just, you know, like, okay, God, here we go, let's do it again, you know. Actually, there's a line there's a moment during the scene with Aaron Burr, Alexander Hamilton, and George Washington when George Washington meets Alexander Hamilton for the first time. And the line, somebody can help me, it says, you know, Aaron Burr, sir, permission to state my case as you were, sir, right? You know? There's this scene where he says, I'm in dire need of assistance. That's what George Washington finally says when he meets Alexander Hamilton. And I'm hearing that, and I'm backstage, and I'm always thinking, I'm in dire need of assistance. I'm thinking that all the time. Every time I hear it, I'm like, I'm in dire need of assistance. You know what I mean? Because that's the way I like walk. I don't know what's gonna happen. Do you know what I mean? And this is a beautiful season of my life because I'm learning how to just receive a gift that is not a gift that, was given once. It's like the sunshine or like a new day. It's like a breath, like you just have to take for granted that it's going to be given again and again and again until I leave the show. And so that's like a learning process. But I encourage people to not, because they're afraid or because they're stressed out or because they have anxiety, think that something is wrong with them. Mm-hmm. That's something that we all have. The people that are the most successful are the people that like keep walking out there and find ways to focus through the heart beating fast and the mouth getting dry. You just keep trying to get better at focusing through that sensation.
I'm making nervous just talking about it. I want to jump to your big number in the show, Satisfied. I know, like you can't.
I love it too, but always better after it's over.
Well, so Satisfied is the second half of this sort of mirror image double number. First is Helpless, which Philippa Sue sings beautifully.
My sister. Mm-hmm.
And that's like her side of the story. And then there's Satisfied, which is Angelica's side of the story. Mm-hmm. And I've spent a lot of time listening to it, and I've gotten to see the show and watch. I like to watch you during Helpless, and I like to watch her during Satisfied.
Oh, that's so great.
And I'm curious about how you act the same moment differently in Helpless and in Satisfied, because you have to be, it's the same moment, but there are little differences that you bring.
Yes, so that's really a great question because it could be played different ways. So what we have is this moment where Eliza and Hamilton and Angelica all meet, and it leads us right into this wedding, and then a toast after the wedding. And we see it twice, because we see it from Eliza's perspective the first time in the song Helpless, and then we see it from Angelica's perspective in Satisfied. And as an actor, with our Tommy Kail, our director, we had the choice of playing the scene so that I'm always playing it, even when it's her song, from my perspective. Or we have the choice of just playing it from her perspective when it's her turn.
Like her generous sister, introducing her.
So I'm really playing it as though, like, anyone ever watch that show, Good Times? Yeah, okay. They used to have episodes every season or so where they would do the same event from every different lead character's perspective. And all the actors would really be what the person whose perspective it was thought, And I kind of think that's what we're doing. I'm not sitting around thinking, I'm in love with you, I want you right now. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna give you to my sister. I'm not really thinking that when I'm playing Helpless scene. It's always gonna be there, because clearly, even from Eliza's perspective, her sister, wants to share Alexander. That's a quote in the show.
And that's from a real letter.
That's from a real letter.
Schuyler
so
wrote.
Clearly Eliza is aware, and Angelica isn't hiding the fact that she thinks this man is amazing. So I don't have to hide that, but I definitely am doing it from the perspective of Eliza the first time. And I would imagine Pippa is doing that as well. One thing we do, though, and Lynn is involved in this as well, if a line comes out a certain way, when I say, I'm about to change your life, is a line that I say to Alexander Hamilton. If I say it a certain way in Helpless, I'm going to try to say it the same way in Satisfied. If you watch the show, that's what I'm going to try to do. But my intention will be purely from Eliza's perspective in Helpless and from my perspective in Satisfied.
Well, it reads, and I'm very impressed with little actor moments like that.
Awesome.
So the Hamilton fandom is obviously very strong. You are very popular on Twitter.
Awesome.
We had a conversation backstage about how often people ask you to pose in the
work pose
position.
Get that a lot.
And I totally did it. But you also come from another world that has huge fandom, which is the soap opera.
Soap opera world.
How long were you on One Life to Live?
I was on One Life to Live. Come on, somebody. Come on. ABC Daytime, come on. I was on One Life to Live for 4 years, and it was a beautiful experience. Another wonderful family of people, another dream come true, and another really awesome opportunity to learn. I learned so much about acting on a soap opera because we get, fortunately, so much opportunity. That's the thing about running a show a long time. It's opportunity to fail. It's trial and error. And so when you're on there's 5 hours of show being filmed a week. I mean, just the pace of that is fantastic and crazy. There's going to be some scenes that aren't that great. Do you know what I mean? But you get really fast and really good. I mean, the learning curve can be really, really great. And so that was one of the best things about it. And the other really great thing about it is that you learn a lot about rooting factor as an actor.
About what?
Rooting factor.
I don't know.
Rooting means like who is the audience rooting for,
which
serves me in everything I do, whether I'm Nettie, whether I'm Geneva Pine in The Good Wife, or whether I'm Angelica Schuyler. And
can we talk about your Star Trek moment?
Or my Star Trek moment? Well, that wasn't very long. She died, which was very painful for me. Sci-fi, why'd that happen to me? But what I'm always aware of, no matter whether my character is the lawyer that's going to come in and be on the opposite side of the protagonist in every episode, like on The Good Wife, or whether I'm Angelica, who's trying to take my sister's man. Like, whatever I'm doing as an actor, I'm doing it in a way that is, like, Leslie Odom Jr. is a great example of this. He plays Aaron Burr. You find out, if you didn't know, in the first minute that he's gonna kill the hero, right?
Spoiler alert.
Oh, no. But like, somebody just told me, like, a little girl was sitting next to a friend of mine at the show, and what does she say? I totally feel so sorry for Aaron Burr. I mean, he really tried. I mean, he really was, like, that's your job as an actor. You know what I mean? It's your job. It's always my job for you to understand at least what I'm doing, because that's what the rooting factor is. I'm always going to be trying to get that from the audience. And so that's another thing I learned on One Life to Live. And then I have to just say, the fans. I still have a lot of them, and the medium of daytime really knows that the currency is really the fans, and I'm excited about the fact that we had Broadway Con this year.
Yeah.
I'm excited about the fact that we're learning that the greatest resources we have in the theater is fans.
We have Broadway Con Part 2 coming up in January, so very excited about that. Have the One Life to Live fans been like, excuse me, Hamilton fans, we knew about her a long time ago?
Back in the day, we had soap operas in New York City. We don't have that anymore. It makes me want to shed a tear. So the actors were all theater people. Do you know what I mean? And so it was not a stretch to go see your favorite actor on a soap opera at night in a Broadway show or on an off-Broadway show somewhere. And they've always been a very savvy audience, this daytime people. They'll support you doing anything. Anything if you want to write a book, if you want to put a clothing line together, not that anyone's ever, I'm sure somebody's done it, but whatever you do, they'll support it. And that's the way I feel about the theater fans as well.
I'm obsessed with the idea that you almost did an audition for Hamilton. And that is another thing that makes me nervous, like, in retrospect, just thinking about it.
What would happen? Yeah.
What would this
to
show
my
look
life?
like?
I would be sitting there watching another girl. I would be a fan. I would be sitting right there, like that really cute girl right there, and I'd be like, oh my God, she's right there, because I would love the show. That's how I felt about In the Heights. This is beautiful. It's a beautiful show, and I can't believe I get to do it. And I'm a super fan of Hamilton. I'm just in it. What is this world? I'm in it, so I get all these like backstage moments, and I get to be friends with all these people. It's crazy. It's crazy, but I would be a super fan because I think this show is amazing.
Have you gotten to see it?
I actually did. I went on a vacation a couple of months ago, and the last night of the vacation, I came and watched the show. I have an awesome understudy. I don't know how she does it. She covers Eliza, Peggy, Mariah, and Angelica. She goes, to talk, this is great. I was just watching her last night do this because Pippa was out.
Who is it?
Alicia?
Is that the actress? I want
That's
to
the actress.
Give the actress.
Leroux is the actress, Alicia. And I was talking about anxiety and fear for something that I do 8 times a week for the last 2 years. And out of the blue, she's called downstairs, and she puts on the costume, and she has to go out and be the lead woman in this show. And I watch her sometimes, like when I'm like in my little like moment, like in the cubby, like about to go on, like praying for myself. Do you know what I mean? And I'll see her over there, and I'll be like, "Oh my God, what's she gonna do?" You know what I mean? What she must be feeling right now, even though she's done it a number of times. Like, what is she telling herself to go out there? And she does it, and she's beautiful, and I cry thinking about how beautiful she is. Like it's a beautiful thing to get to see actors in that moment. Or that's why I turn on the NBA. You know what I mean? That's why I watch the finals. I want to see what people do in that moment, how they handle it. You know, that's what separates the men from the boys, as they say.
Are you able to see any other shows on Broadway right now?
I am. I saw Shuffle Along. Has everybody seen Shuffle Along? I saw The Color Purple. Has anybody seen The Color Purple?
I could talk to you for 20 minutes just on how you feel about Jaquina, who's playing the role you
Oh,
originated.
she's so beautiful. So good. They're all so great. Master classes. I like to go to shows just to see other people. I like to see the other women that are in my category for the Tonys, because it'll make it easier when I know, because I know how brilliant they are. So it just makes it easier when you're sitting there, because you know any name you call deserves this award. Any one of those women, they're so good. It's kind of mind-blowing to be in the group. Really
Well,
awesome.
you are also so good.
Thank you.
We have time for a couple questions
Yay.
from the audience.
We're going to start with a question from an online viewer. So Jordan says, in which ways has the show changed and your character changed since you started?
The show actually, Lin gave birth to something in his apartment or wherever he was over those 8 years that was pretty much what the show is. It's shocking if you get to hear his original demos, what was already there. And yes, everything that's been added to it adds to it and has helped it evolve in terms of arrangement and choreography and the actors whose DNA are in these characters now. But it started, the gem of it was brilliant. And I can't help but think that, there are definitely things that are just Renee that are in the show, because I'm Renee, and I'm looking at Philippa Sue as my sister, and I'm looking at Lin-Manuel Miranda as this man that I love, and it brings a certain thing out of me. When I watch them I think even more so than the way I do things that were given to me, the way I respond to the stimulus I'm given by watching the other actors is very much how they make me feel. So I think that's something that's very kind of signature to who I am.
Is it weird to think that those signature Renee
Yes, bits, that's fine.
Yeah, bits are going to live on with Angelica as other actresses take on the part?
I know I've definitely replaced a lot of wonderful women in my day in other shows, and I definitely steal as much as I possibly can. I mean, you can look at me in the Rent movie, and I'm just telling you right now, Carmine should get some credit for some of my moves, because I used to watch her. She was just this awesome Mimi, and she had some. I would be like, girl, how do you do that on the rail? How do you do that? You know what I mean? So I definitely know that you should take anything that's there that works for you. But I also know that I will come, just like I saw Montego Glover as Nettie after closed the Color Purple original production, and she was brilliant and different than me. I know I will go watch other women play Angelica and be like, oh, yes, I know that I will do that, and I'm excited about that too. Yeah, cool.
Hi, Renee.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for coming.
Growing up, which person from the theater world did you idolize and why?
Oh, so many. But the first person that comes to mind when you say that is Felicia Rashad. And that was even before the theater. I grew up watching her on The Cosby Show, and I used to dream that one day I could do that. And it's funny because I was a little girl, and you'd think I would have been looking at the other little girls and projecting on what it must feel like to be them on a TV show. But I was really looking at her. She was just the example of a beautiful woman that was. She's an Angelica Schuyler, Felicia Rashad. Yeah. You know what I mean? And she was on that show, and she's a brilliant actress in the theater. And I missed her last show to my, dismay, because you can't see her in the theater and not be changed. She's everything.
When she was at the Public, a friend of mine was like, oh, she gives the full
She
Rashad.
does, and she always does. And you know who else always does? I'm sorry, Audra McDonald. Mm-hmm. She always does. I'm telling you, I just was at Shuffle Along, and I don't know. I mean, she doesn't have a Tony nomination, but it's not that she's not giving a Tony-winning performance over there. I'm telling you that right now. I mean, not that she needs another one, clearly.
Well,
but she deserves one every time she gets on the stage. She's brilliant, and so the force of her outside of her voice, like her voice is crazy, but just her acting, her presence, her spirit,
the tap dancing.
it's just life-changing. It's never not.
It's a sign of an incredible season when there are too many Tony-worthy performances to even give everyone.
Yeah,
who deserves one.
it's crazy.
I think we've got time for one more.
Yay.
Are you like or unlike Angelica Schuyler?
She's probably smarter than me, stronger than me, and definitely more sacrificially loving than I am. I'm trying to think of a man I gave up for somebody. I can't think of that at the moment.
Name names.
I'm sure I have, but But yeah, how am I like her? Well, I have a lot of really examples, like I was saying, of Felicia and Audra, of really strong. Michelle Obama, my mother, my daughter, my cousin who's in town right now. I have a lot of examples of really strong, beautiful women. That I feel that I'm a strong, beautiful woman. I do feel that about myself. In the ways that matter. Like I have those examples and I try to be that. And the beauty of playing Angelica or meeting Michelle Obama is that you realize, oh, I'm not there yet. There's like room to grow, because clearly that's what it is. But I feel like that's the mold that, God has given me to fill. So that's what I'm like working towards, but I feel like I'm going to be empowered to do it, and I'm excited for the opportunity. That's what I love about playing her is the opportunity to be up against that all the time, and like be looking in myself for those things to bring out in some kind of new way every night.
Well, never stop growing, never stop performing. Please keep giving your generous spirit to us as the theater-loving community.
Thank you.
I don't know how long you're going to be in Hamilton. I'm not going to ask.
I'm going to be in there as long as they'll have me and as long as I can pull it off.
But I hope that we will have countless other projects to see you in over the next few decades as well. I'm such a big fan of yours, as is everyone in this world. Everyone in this world, everyone in this room, everyone in this world. And I just want to thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, sweetheart.